Howdy, everyone. It is a little after 11, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to our enterprise tools you need to know about, focusing on Peerceptiv. This is one of our Canvas faculty workshops. This is a joint venture between Peerceptiv and the Texas A&M Center for Teaching Excellence. And I'm very excited about today's session as it features a couple of individuals from Peerceptiv, along with two faculty members here at A&M who are going to talk about how they utilize Peerceptiv in their classrooms. Here is our schedule for the day. We'll do a brief introduction, and then Dr. Andy Tagg will give us a use case example from his courses, and then we will learn about an overview of Peerceptiv, and then Dr. Katie Stoddard will give us a second use case example before we dive into how to create Peerceptiv assignments, and we'll wrap up with a Q&A, and then also a couple of concluding facts and links. Just a couple of norms, or a few norms for today's presentation. If you would like to, please feel free to use the chat to introduce yourself, to ask any questions. The chat will be monitored by myself and someone else from the office. Sorry, wrong office. We got merged to the Center for Teaching Excellence. Sally Hughes is here with me from the Center for Teaching Excellence. We will be monitoring the chat. If the presenters ask for input, feel free to use your mic. Unless you are providing input, please go ahead and mute your mic so we don't get any background noise. And of course, have fun and learn some new information about how to utilize this tool with your students. I'd like to take just a moment to introduce everyone who is a part of today's session. We have with us Dr. Andy Tagg. Dr. Tagg is an instructional associate professor and the director of lower division instruction in the Department of Biology. And Dr. Katie Stoddard will be joining us in about 15 minutes. She is an instructional associate professor in the Department of Plant Pathology and Microbiology, and an associate director for Scholarship of Teaching and Learning in the Center for Teaching Excellence. So another one of my colleagues from the Center for Teaching Excellence. We are very excited to have both of them with us and to learn how to use Peerceptiv in their courses. From Peerceptiv, we have Megan Riley and Sheena Gibson, both of whom are Peerceptiv instructional specialists, and they are going to be guiding us through a wealth of resources that they have created to showcase some methods and best practices for utilizing Peerceptiv, and we're very excited to have them with us as well. And my name is CJ Shields, and I will be facilitating the session. I am, again, with the Center for Teaching Excellence, and we'll be answering questions and running slideshows and that sort of thing, and also keeping track of time. Our learning outcomes for today are to identify the benefits of using Peerceptiv within Canvas courses, navigate the Peerceptiv settings and apply them to meet learning outcomes, and analyze how to utilize group collaboration and feedback using Peerceptiv. So those are our learning outcomes. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Tagg, who is going to give us an overview and some examples of how he uses Canvas, or not how he uses Peerceptiv in his Canvas courses.
Thank you, CJ. I'm just going to kind of lay out the scale here, and I think maybe perhaps one of the reasons we use Peerceptiv will come to light pretty quickly. As the director of the introductory biology program, we oversee 3 different courses that are both required courses for a lot of folks in the life sciences, but are also courses that are part of the core curriculum at Texas A&M. And so one of the aspects of the core curriculum is that students do develop their oral communication skills. And one of the requirements as being a course in the core curriculum is that we occasionally have to submit artifacts to show how our students have developed in the core in terms of their oral communication skills. And so the number of students we serve on a semester basis is a little over 4,000. And so having a way to capture that data for our assessment team is, to say the least, a little bit challenging. And so one of the things that we did in the last couple of years is develop an assignment for each. It's a little different for each course, but an assignment where students develop a 3 to 5 minute video on a topic. We give them some free rein, but very rigid guidelines and a rubric to follow as they produce their video project, where they describe either, in one case, it's a, current status of a biofuel technology and the pluses and minuses. And if they were the funding agency, would they give them money? Where would they put their money in the present day? And that kind of thing. And so students develop these projects, and we have them actually submit it to YouTube as an unlisted video and then submit the URL to Peerceptiv. And one of the reasons, I don't know, maybe Peerceptiv folks can weigh in on this later, is originally we had them submit the video to Peerceptiv through Canvas, and it crashed everything. So because they all try to turn it in at 11:59 p.m. when it's due instead of, over time. So YouTube doesn't seem to have that problem. And the other benefit for doing that is that it's agnostic in terms of the file type. Everybody can watch a YouTube video, but people who have Macs sometimes have file problems. People who have PCs sometimes can't see Mac files. So YouTube kind of is the Rosetta Stone, if you will. So they watch the video, and then we set up the rubric in Peerceptiv, and then we require each student to review 3 of their peers' video projects, give them an overall, written review of what they saw, what they liked, what they didn't like, and then whether they met the metrics for the project. We give them about 7 days to do the reviews and about 2 weeks to do the video. Most of the hiccups we've had have been, we didn't really describe how to do it very well in this aspect of the project. And so we had students who didn't quite understand what they were doing. And once we got that nailed down pretty well, it amazingly goes pretty smoothly now. The Peerceptiv platform is intuitive on both the faculty side and the student side. And so that has been a very nice thing from our standpoint. And so that's the assignment in a nutshell. The students actually enjoy this and hearing from their peers and seeing other students' projects. This is not a high stakes assignment. So, they're not grading, a quarter of someone else's grade. It's a small project, but the creativity that they put into it, and students are honest when they say, this person did a really nice job on this project, and they didn't, or this person didn't put in any effort. It comes out, and so the platform helps us to see that too. And it's, for the most part, really easy to go in as an instructor and see where there are issues and deal with them. So I think that's pretty much what I had for that, but I'm welcome to ask questions or what have you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Tagg. Very interesting use case there with the videos and the YouTube connection. Are there any questions directly? There are not any in the chat right now, but if there are any directly, feel free to ask those. Okay, we are going to move to the Peerceptiv presentation. So Megan and Sheena are going to give us an overview of Peerceptiv, just a kind of a quick overview, and then we'll actually jump back to a second faculty use case, and then we'll learn how to create the assignments that have been talked about. So I am going to share the presentation and turn it over to Megan and Sheena.
Thanks, CJ. So I'll be talking kind of about the history of Peerceptiv and what it can do. If you want to go to the next slide, Peerceptiv was started about 12 years ago now at the University of Pittsburgh by a psychology professor there. And he continues to teach and continues to do research in the University of Pittsburgh's Learning, Research, and Development Center. So one of the things we like to say first is that Peerceptiv came through research, and it is still influenced by ongoing research about peer review and best practices in peer review. There's an algorithm that runs behind the scenes that allows for valid and reliable grading. And just like Dr. Tagg was saying, students are not good grading if you say, hey, here's a 10-page paper, give it an A, B, C, D, but they're really actually very good at grading if you give them an assignment and very specific criteria and ask them to rate those particular aspects of the criteria. They're very accurate in that sense. And one of the things about the Peerceptiv algorithm is it is looking at not just the ratings on the student document, like some other peer review tools are, but it's also looking at the accuracy and the helpfulness of the reviewers and tying that into their grade as well, so that the students have to be good reviewers and can't just, check boxes to say, oh, it was great, and leave it at that. We'll talk about some of the different assignments because Peerceptiv has more than just submission assignments where students peer review, but however you use it, it will build collaboration skills in the classroom, whether it's written communication or oral communication. And then it helps to improve learning outcomes and really lets you drill down and see where the students are strong and where they need additional support. If you want to move to the next slide, please. So just kind of some background of peer review research in general. Student learning actually improves the most by providing feedback to peers. And when students get feedback from multiple people, they start to hear the same thing from multiple voices and realize, oh, this is an area where I need to improve. Especially in the large enrollment classes, and we know we work with a number of different TAMU large enrollment classes, it's almost impossible to do assignments like this without having some kind of peer review element in it, because there's just no way that one instructor and team of TAs could grade 200, 400, 600 pieces of work a semester or multiple times a semester. And because of the algorithm, the grading is valid and reliable, and there's lots of ways to customize the grading. You want to move on? Peerceptiv has three main assignment types, but they're all very customizable. The kind of bread and butter is peer assessment, where students will submit any kind of project, written work, videos, code reviews, anything that can be uploaded or linked. And then they go through and use a rubric to peer review those submissions. The rubric is entirely customizable. We do have some sample ones, but it's really up to the instructor and the learning outcomes of their particular assignment. And students can submit individually or as a group, depending on how you have the assignment set up. We also have team member evaluation. In these assignments, students don't submit anything. They're looking at their group members' participation. And this can be group members' participation, say, in a discussion or over the course of a semester-long project. CJ, if you want to click to the next slide. This semester, we are excited about live presentations. This is brand new, and it allows students to go in front of a class, whether it's in person or online, but typically in person. They can go in front, and the rest of the class can be reviewing those live presentations. So it's single blind, where many of the other types are double blind because you know who's presenting in front of the class. But this is a way to keep all of the students engaged and give the presenters more feedback than they would get otherwise. And then we also have instructor upload, where instructors can upload exemplars or case studies for students to review. And both Sheena and I work closely with new instructors if you want it. If you have an idea for an assignment and you're not exactly sure what it would look like in Peerceptiv, we're happy to talk through it about what it would look like and how it would work. The next set of slides run through the student peer assessment workflow. So Sheena later will be talking about the instructor setup process. This is what the students will go through. They'll submit, it is anonymous, and Peerceptiv takes care of the distribution. I'll say it's anonymous if the students take their names off of the work. It's double blind if it's written work, single blind if it's a video presentation or a live presentation, of course. Because it's double blind, or at least single blind, the reviews are bias free, and students oftentimes say that they're more honest in their comments and more constructive in their comments than they would be if the identities were known, because they don't feel like they're hurting the friend by saying, hey, this really could have been done better, and here are some ways to do it. And we really encourage critical analysis in the rubric to improve their critical thinking skills and to kind of bolster that big picture, how to improve. Peerceptiv has a third stage that's in many assignments called the feedback stage. This helps to hold reviewers accountable because the person who submitted will read the comments that they receive from their reviewers and rate how helpful they are and write a response. And then that generates grades. And there's a lot of ways to use the grades in Peerceptiv, whether it's just a low stakes assignment and you're using it kind of like a completion checkmark grade, or whether you're using it to actually generate a grade that will go into the Canvas gradebook. All right. So this is what the students will see when they click from Canvas, from the assignment link in Canvas, they go directly to the Peerceptiv submission screen. They click submit and they're able to upload or link or type in their information. CJ, if you want to go to the next screen, please. We this semester have a new reviewing feature, pin drops. This only works in file or video uploads. In file uploads, you can drop a pin on the file. In video submissions, we have actually totally redone how we do video uploads. So it should no longer be a problem if you have 400 students decide to upload their files at 11:58 p.m. Because we've totally redone that. And if you do have them upload their files in Peerceptiv, you can have them use a timestamp feature to link the comment to a particular timestamp in the video. So that's a new feature that we rolled out over the summer. CJ, if you want to take it to the next screen. Typically, the rubrics in Peerceptiv have comment prompts and rating prompts. So the last example was a comment prompt. This is a rating prompt. And the rubric is very customizable to the assignment that you have. We can go to the next screen. This is then the feedback stage. So this is where the submitter is looking at, and this is a new screen, they're looking at their work on the left. They see at the top right the comment that they received. They rate on a scale of 1 to 5 stars how helpful it was, and they write a response. So with the tagging, we've now brought in students being able to see the comments and their document to try to tie the learning together even more. And the next screen when you're ready. And that leads to the results screen for the students. The students are able to break apart how they do in each element of the Peerceptiv grade in the terms of submitting, reviewing, and completing all the tasks. They're able to see how they did according to the rubric, to view the comments and any resources that you want to attach to rubric items where a student might need additional support. You can do that now within the rubric and it will automatically populate on the resource page if students need it. We also have a new part of the results page. If you want to click to the next slide, students can now see their document with all of the comments and the feedback and the pinned location. So we've really this summer worked a lot to try to get students to be able to sort of close that learning gap where they're receiving comments and now they're receiving comments, seeing the submitted work, and hopefully using that to improve in future iterations or other projects. So that is the student screen for peer assessment. And then I believe the next couple of slides just quickly go over the student screens and team member evaluation. So this is where students are evaluating their group members. They go through a very similar rubric where they're looking at and rating different characteristics. You're welcome to use our in-house rubric or you can use one of your own. This looks at professionalism, work ethic, collaboration, things like that. And then the next slide shows a comment prompt where students are prompted to leave a comment about their team members. And you can make these comments so they are visible to the team members, or you can make them confidential so that only the instructor would see them, which would allow students to perhaps be a little bit more honest if you want to see what's really going on in the groups. So those are the student screens. The rest of what we'll be showing you is more from the instructor side, but we wanted to make sure that you had a picture of what the students will see. When we send out the recording and the slides, there are a couple of other slides that give you some step-by-step instructions for how to get started, but we'll be covering those later. So CJ, that's the end of the big picture overview part.
Thank you very much, Megan. I appreciate that. Some great information there, and also thanks for sharing about the additional information that will be part of what is sent out. Again, feel free to ask any questions. Drop those in the chat. If you would like to unmute, ask a question, feel free to do that as well. If there are no questions, if there are not any questions at this time, I will stop sharing and I will turn the presentation over to Dr. Katie Stoddard.
Howdy. It's a pleasure to be here. Megan, it's always fun to hear what's new in Peerceptiv. I've been using it for, I think since like 2016, maybe 2017. And that pin drop feature, I really like that. I'll have to let my students know about that. So hi, I'm Katie. I'm Dr. Katie Stoddard. I am in plant pathology and microbiology in the College of Agricultural and Life Sciences. And I also have a part-time appointment in the Center of Teaching Excellence. So I started using Peerceptiv to manage, like she said, like a large class that has writing assignments. So I teach a core curriculum course, and it's core curriculum in the life and the physical and life sciences. And so it's required to have communication, and that's visual communication, written communication, and verbal communication. And so one of the ways that I managed the written communication was an assignment that was called the worldview assignment. And it's designed to have students think critically about the course content in a creative way that might be more relevant to them than other things. I'm going to turn my lights on because I see my lights are very low. Hopefully that's a little bit better. So, so I teach an environmental science class. And the worldview assignment is, I give them a template that has 3 different prompts of an environmental issue that's happening, that's relevant to the unit that we're in. And I ask them to explain what their worldview is on that particular issue. And they have to include and define course terms as they describe what they think. And so this is an opportunity to do what students like to do best, which is talk about themselves. And so they get to like really explore, like, what do I think about this thing? And so initially this was an assignment that my TA and I graded, and it was like 200 essays every 2 weeks. And you can imagine what that looked like. And so I found Peerceptiv, a colleague showed it to me, and I was like, well, this solves problems. But I realized that it solved 2 problems. One problem was it eliminated like a massive grading load that my TA and I had, and we just couldn't keep up grading and providing quality feedback. And so the writing and the precision to the intent of the assignment just couldn't be dialed in, because we had so much volume. We couldn't get through it all and give quality feedback and improve the assignment because we were just so backloaded. But then the other thing that it solved was, I realized one of the points of the assignment, I realized we were missing an element, is that I think that there's true value in sharing your worldview with someone else and learning what someone else thinks and why, and then having a discussion around that and recognizing that not everyone sees the world the same way as you do, which is a good thing to recognize and have experience with in college. And this was a good way to do it. So this assignment, they get a template. The first part of the template, they have to explain what their worldview is, and they incorporate course terms and they define them. And that's 2 elements of the rubric. Did the student incorporate course terms, which were from the glossary, and did they define them? And they have to be in context. So the student here is being scored and graded on whether they can explain something using course terms. It's not, I make it very, very clear to my students, you're not being scored on what your worldview is. You're being scored on how well you can communicate using course terms, which is a really important aspect of kind of getting into the content. And then the second part of the assignment is a reflection. So we're going to take the metacognition and we're going to just kind of elevate it a little. And I asked them to explain how they formed their worldview. So they have to be willing that's why I give them three topics. So they have to pick a topic that they're willing to dive in and say, I formed my worldview because of this life experience. And then they have to give an example. And so that's another place that we practice deep critical thinking and metacognition of what is it that you think and why. And that is something that is new to them, and they need coaching on that. So I'm grateful that I have Peerceptiv, because I can get through the grading relatively quickly and give them feedback on a meta level, like looking at the whole group, much easier. The feedback I've received from students is that they really appreciate the opportunity to do an assignment that repeats so they can learn from the first one and improve on the next one and improve on the next one. They also appreciate the other thing that's really nice about Peerceptiv and assignments associated with Peerceptiv. It's not an all or nothing game. And so I tell my students, you know, maybe something went wrong for you and you weren't able to submit your worldview. There's an option in Peerceptiv that they have the option to review other essays at a certain point in the review process. And so I tell my students, you have the opportunity, multiple places to earn points. So you earn points in your submission, you earn points in your peer review, you earn points as you provide feedback. And so it adds nuance and really kind of dives into what is it that we're really looking for the student to do in the assignment. And it gives credit and gives points for that. It's been really well received by my students. Every once in a while, you'll get someone that says, I don't like someone else grading my work other than my professor. And I will tell you the one thing that I'm very cautious of, and I tell everyone that I talk to about Peerceptiv, is when you talk with your students, make sure that you use the phrase, you are scoring your peers, because the students are not grading each other. That is not what it is. It is they are providing data that goes into the algorithm that then you use as the instructor to provide a grade. And so that mind shift right there is really important, especially from the get-go, because some students are reluctant to engage because they think they're being graded by someone else. It's also important to assuage their fears that if someone gives them a poor score while two other people give them a strong score, that poor score is going to reflect badly on them. So I try to talk to them as much as I can about the complexity of the algorithm, and it accounts for the quality and the accuracy of reviews to make sure that one student's grade isn't going to be tanked because someone wasn't paying attention to the rubric. So there's some of that at the very beginning of my semester. I explain what the worldview assignment is, but I also explain why we use Peerceptiv, how we're going to use it, the value of it. And I think that's important rather than just loading it into their laps the first week that you're going to give them assignment. I think it's important to have like a ramp up. And so I have a video that kind of explains Peerceptiv that I show them, and I kind of walk them through the process. I also will say about the I have only ever done the written part. So it was really fun to hear Andy talk about the other ways that you can use it. The tagging part, that's really cool. I've never used that, so I'm excited to try. But I will say the team evaluation, when I found that saved a lot of time, because I used to do team evaluations in like a survey, like whether that was a Google survey or a Canvas survey. The problem with that is it is then going to be on the instructor to go process all of that data. So you're going to have to find the student and what score did they get from, like, it's just processing data, which if you know what you're doing, it's not impossible, but it's just time consuming. But this allows you to get a score for the participation for every student in a group, and it will also automatically upload from your Canvas groups. So if you have groups built in Canvas, you can upload those into Peerceptiv and it will do it automatically. The one thing that I will say about that is just be mindful of what the grade that they're going to get for that. It is a completion grade. So if a student in a team goes and does their peer review, the score that's kicked back to Canvas, if you put a score there, is going to be whether or not they completed that review. I have a separate participation score that I calculate based off of the results that I get from the data that is done from that process. I'm not sure if I have more time or less time, but I feel like I should probably stop there.
You have 5 more minutes, actually, if you would like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing that I appreciate that helps with Peerceptiv is it gives students more opportunities to also engage with each other. And they talked about that more learning happens as peers give peers feedback, but it also creates that teacher, that one-on-one teaching relationship. And so and I think that's where it's important that you are very transparent with your rubric and what you're expecting out of them, because you're going to have some students are going to get a little bit anxious about how to score well, since they know they're going to receive a grade based off of how well they score. And so I've refined my rubric over time to be very, very clear. You can have up to 10 levels for every element of the rubric that you use. And so if you have a rubric that has 4 different judging criteria, each of those criteria can have up to 10 levels. 10 might not be the best. Students can get a little overwhelmed with what qualifies as 10, unless it's like something that's very quantitative of like 10 instances of something. You might want to consider giving them less options, and you might have to experiment with how many options you give them to have the most quality and quality feedback. I tend to go for about 7 for most of mine. And I try to make very clear, this is what a 7 is. This is what a 5 is. And for some, I will put like a spacer in between, like there's a 7 and the 6 is blank, and then there's a 5, because you might find that like there might be some wiggle room. And so I put a wiggle room in there. But it's saved me a lot of time. And one of the things that I appreciated about it, and I think that most instructors would, is that there's a fine line between teaching a class well and investing so much into it. But if you invest so much into it, but you don't have enough time to improve the course or improve yourself professionally, then you're kind of stuck in the weeds. And so this is a really cool tool that allows you to get out of the weeds, and so that you can start improving the course, improving an assignment, improving your professional skills. And so it creates opportunities. So it's a great tool, and Megan and Sheena respond very quickly and solve lots of problems.
Thank you, Dr. Stoddard. Some great examples there, and I also love the piece about the balance and continual improvement in the course and improving and refining everything. Some great points there. At this point, I'll turn it back over to Megan and Sheena to continue talking about creating and utilizing assignments within Peerceptiv.
Great, thanks, PJ. I'm gonna take it from here. And actually, if I would be able to share my screen, do you know if I have permission?
Sure. I can give you permission.
Okay.
If you don't have it already, I'll give it to you.
I will give it a try and see if I can. All right, great. Okay, so you should all be seeing my screen at this point, and I am in my sample Canvas instance. So what I'm going to do from here is show you how to set up a Peerceptiv assignment in Canvas, and then show you how to adjust the Peerceptiv assignment settings and rubric. So if you wanted to get started today, you certainly could. Everyone at Texas A&M has access to Peerceptiv in Canvas. You don't need to do anything special to get access. It should be available for you in your Canvas course. So you'll notice here that I do have Peerceptiv in my left sidebar. You can put Peerceptiv in your sidebar or not, it's up to you. To do that, you would go to Settings, and then go to Navigation, and you would pull Peerceptiv up from the bottom and put it up in the list of kind of tools in your sidebar. And then you would click Save. So I already have it available in my sidebar. What the sidebar link does is allows you to launch to Peerceptiv at the course level. So if I click my link in the sidebar, it's going to launch me to my Peerceptiv course that is connected to my Canvas course. So it's a course level link. That's important to know, because when you set up your assignments in Canvas, you want to set them up at the assignment level in Canvas. So I'm just going to go back here to Canvas, and I'll go to Assignments. So even if you do have Peerceptiv in the sidebar, you still want to set up Peerceptiv at the assignment level. This is important for grade passback. So you set up your assignment in Canvas, it launches to the assignment level in Canvas, or in Peerceptiv, and then the two can talk to each other and send the grades back and forth. It's also important for group sync. As Katie was mentioning, we can pull groups directly from Canvas into Peerceptiv. In order to do that, you need to launch at the assignment level. So what I'm going to do is click Add Assignment. I'll put my assignment name. You want to be descriptive here. I wouldn't just put, Peerceptiv assignment. You could put, group project, peer assessment here. You'll put your assignment description as you would normally. You'll put a point total. So let's say I want this to count for 10 points in the Canvas gradebook. Peerceptiv will send a percentage grade back when the assignment is complete back to Canvas, and it'll convert to whatever point total you have set up. So even if Peerceptiv sends an 80%, students will get an 8 out of 10 points on the gradebook. Your submission type is going to be external tool, and then you'll click the find button. When you click the find button, you at Texas A&M are going to click beta Peerceptiv. So just keep an eye out. It's up at the top of the list. It's called beta Peerceptiv because that's how it was originally put into Texas A&M, but it's not in beta. It is that is the functioning tool of Peerceptiv. It's just called beta Peerceptiv. I am going to use demo Peerceptiv because I'm doing a demo right now. But you'll select beta Peerceptiv. All right. It's important that you always click load this tool in a new tab. That is really important for Safari users. Safari doesn't like it when Peerceptiv loads within Canvas within Safari. So always click load this tool in a new tab. And it's also better for students to be able to read their reviews and do everything they need to do in a new tab. The due date here should be your submission deadline in Peerceptiv so that students are prompted on the Canvas calendar to upload their submission to Peerceptiv. So I'll select, Friday the 29th. If you would like, you could add some ungraded assignments in Canvas, which will add the review deadline and the feedback deadline onto their Canvas calendar. And you could tell them, click the Peerceptiv link in the sidebar to complete your reviews or to complete your feedback. So that's just one way to get Peerceptiv assignment reminders on your Canvas calendar, is to set up some ungraded assignments that aren't connected to Peerceptiv. For this assignment, it's connected to Peerceptiv. I'm going to use our submission deadline as the due date. Last thing is, you do want to leave this until date blank because you want students to be able to come back to this assignment link at any time to access their results after the assignment is complete. And if you close it in Canvas, students won't be able to come back and access their results. All right, so I'll click save. And now you'll see I have a gray box here that says load this assignment in a new window. This is your assignment link. So if I click that, it's now going to take me to my assignment creation screen. Many instructors will select to choose a standard workflow. This is puts assignment templates in place that have all of our default settings and recommended settings. If you've used Peerceptiv before, you can certainly copy an assignment in that you've used before, or you could copy some of our sample assignments in, or you can build a custom assignment. If you're ever doing a peer assessment assignment where you don't want the feedback phase, that's when you would want to build a custom assignment, because all of our standard workflow peer assessment assignments do have the feedback phase. So for now, I'll just click choose a standard workflow. And I'm going to do a group peer assessment here. With our group peer assessment, students are in groups. They can upload one project per group. And then each member of the group is required to review other group projects in the course. And then lastly, we have the feedback stage where students will read the reviews their work received and reply back to their reviewers. So I'll select use workflow. If you've used Peerceptiv before, we do have some new options here in the standard workflow where we can do live presentations individual and live presentation group assignments. And as Katie mentioned, we also have our team member evaluation feature where students can evaluate their peers on the quality of their group participation. So I'll select use workflow. I want my assignment name to match the assignment name that I put in Canvas. This is important because if you ever decide to copy your Canvas shell in the future and then copy a Peerceptiv course into your newly copied Canvas shell, If the assignment names match in Canvas and in Peerceptiv, Peerceptiv can automatically make those links for you, and it's much easier. If the assignment names don't match, then Peerceptiv doesn't know what to do when you copy that course. So it's nice to have your assignment names match in Canvas and in Peerceptiv, so when you copy those courses in the future, everything links up. Your assignment description, a lot of people do see Canvas for description so that they only have it in one place, and that way if they make adjustments, they only have to update it in Canvas. They don't have to update it both places. All right, we'll set our deadlines here. To do that, I'm just going to click my date on one side and then click the calendar. I do want my dates in Peerceptiv to match whatever dates I put into Canvas, so that's important here. The deadline time, we recommend always leaving as 11:59 p.m. It just makes everything smooth and consistent for students. Click next and finish. All right, so now I have my assignment in place. There's basically 3 things that I want to do to get this ready for students. I want to edit the settings just to make sure that they're all the way I want them, even though we do have the defaults here in place. I want to add a rubric, and I'd want to bring the groups in from Canvas. So very quickly, we'll walk you through what that looks like. If I click the gear icon, I'm going to edit the settings. Peerceptiv does allow for file uploads, link uploads, text uploads. If students are uploading, let's say, a slide presentation, I could remove the text option, and then students could upload either a PowerPoint file or a Google Slides link. I could also remove the link option so that they only upload a PowerPoint file. We recommend 2 reviews per student for group assignments. For individual assignments, you'll see we recommend 3 per student, and that's for valid and reliable grading. You could reduce that if you're doing a participation group graded assignment where you're not worried about the grades. We have some advanced reviewing options. This is where Katie mentioned you can allow students who haven't submitted to peer review. You can adjust the feedback prompts. This is what students use to evaluate the quality of the comments they receive. And then I will talk very briefly about grading. Many instructors use our curved grading style, which essentially takes the raw peer ratings that students put into the system and converts them to percentage grades that make sense. So if students are mostly getting a 2 out of 4 on the rubric, we're not giving them a 50% for their project. We're giving them a percentage grade based on relatively how the rest of the students in the class are doing and how an instructor would typically grade the assignment using a rubric. So a 2 out of 4 on the rubric might actually be closer to, you know, a 75% when we're using our curved grading style. We also have the option for benchmark grading. This is really nice for our large classes. The instructor would grade 10 student submissions, and then Peerceptiv uses those benchmarks to determine the grades for the rest of the class. So if you as the instructor go in and benchmark and your grades are falling between a 60 and a 90, then Peerceptiv is going to curve the rest of the grades between a 60 and a 90 based on what you've graded those 10 student submissions as. With either curved or benchmark grading, you as the instructor are able to give reviews if you would like. Your reviews are always counted as 100% accurate in our system. So we tend to then weight students that score more closely to your grades as heavier than students who do not score closely to the reviews that you give. So that is an option for an instructor to help influence the grading algorithm in the grading process. And then lastly, we always recommend that you select manual grade release so that you can view the grades before the students see them and before they get sent back to Canvas. We recommend always allowing late submissions. You can apply penalties if you would like. This is where you can adjust that grade curve mean and standard deviation. A mean of 85 with a standard deviation of 10 means most students are going to fall between a 75 and a 95 with some outliers at either end. This provides grades that are most similar to what an instructor would typically provide. However, if you're doing like a really low stakes assignment, you could certainly increase the mean or tighten the standard deviation. And you can adjust this after the fact as well. If you look at your grades and you're like, "Ooh, those are a little high or those are a little low," you can adjust this mean before you release the grades. Peerceptiv does generate 3 grades that are combined to produce the overall grade. We generate a submission grade, which looks at the quality of the student submission. We generate a review grade, which looks at the quality of the student reviews, so the accuracy and helpfulness of the reviews that they're providing. And we look at it and we generate a task grade, which looks at, did the student complete all of the tasks they were required to do? These 3 grades are important because they provide an incentive for students to participate in the peer reviewing process and participate at a high quality level. But you can adjust these weights and how they contribute to the overall grade if you would like. Okay, we have the deadlines here. We have some advanced settings. We do send email notifications 24 hours before each deadline. And finish. Okay, so that's a quick overview of what some of our settings are that you could select. When I add a rubric here, I'm just going to import one from our rubric library so that you can see an example of what a Peerceptiv rubric looks like. We're not going to get into the rubric today because we don't really have a whole lot of time. But as Megan mentioned, we do have comment prompts, which ask students to provide qualitative feedback. And it is really important for critical analysis. And we also have rating prompts. This is what's generating the numerical data that's going to be used to generate the grades. So rating prompts are also an important aspect of the Peerceptiv rubric. It also helps provide objective criteria that students can look at to know how they're meeting the standards for this assignment. We do recommend around 1 to 4 comment prompts per rubric and 5 to 12 rating prompts per rubric. So that's just a good rule of thumb for you. And this rubric has 2 comment prompts and 9 rating prompts, and that's pretty typical for a Peerceptiv assignment. Right, the last thing that I'm going to show you here is if I go to my groups tab, I am going to click group sync. And this is going to bring my groups from Canvas automatically into Peerceptiv. It's going to ask me to choose a category. So you can have different categories of groups in Canvas. Peerceptiv is able to differentiate between them. So if you have, groups category A or B, you can sync different groups depending on the assignment. And then I'll click sync, and it will bring the groups automatically from Canvas into Peerceptiv here. And we can see that they've populated. If I go to my progress tab, I can also see that Peerceptiv has automatically brought in my students from Canvas into Peerceptiv. And this is where, as an instructor, you will spend a lot of time during the assignment. You can look at each student to see when they submitted, how many reviews they've given and received. So it's a good way for you to keep track of progress. If I click on a particular student's name, this is where I'll be able to see the submission they uploaded, and I can actually drill into the comments they've received and ratings that they've given. Okay, so that is a very quick overview of how to set up a Peerceptiv assignment, edit the settings, add a rubric, and add groups. Are there any questions at this point? Okay, then I am done with my portion here.
All right, thanks so much, Sheena. Any other questions regarding anything we've talked about today? Questions for Megan or Sheena or Andy or Katie? Any questions from the audience? Happy to field those at this time if there are any. And feel free to drop those in the chat if you would like to as well. Okay, since there are no questions, I will assume it's the equivalent of Ms. Rev barking, and we can go ahead and end class here. Before we end, I will shamelessly promote some of our upcoming workshops as well. So we have a couple of weeks, what grade would your Canvas gradebook earn? And then we have another session similar to this session on GradeScope. We have a cross collaborative with all of CTE, or virtually all of CTE, chiming in on some generative AI tools on October 25th. We'll do another session on Perusall, and then we'll have one about rubrics before final exam start. You can find all of those on ers.tamu.edu. We are updating those constantly and adding new sessions regularly. And just like this one, we will record those and post them on our YouTube channel, which is in the process of migrating because the old office was merged into CTE. So we are in the process of working out some of the nuances of that YouTube channel, but they will be available there in the near future. And then I'm also going to put in the chat the link to complete the survey for today's feedback session. So if you wouldn't mind completing that, I would appreciate it. And just a couple of questions on Qualtrics survey there about things that we can do to improve future delivery and try to bring you sessions that will be the most beneficial for all the faculty here at A&M. If there are no other questions, then I will go ahead and wrap everything up for today. And again, thank all of our presenters. I appreciate all the time that each of you put into developing the presentation, coming to speak with us, the examples you shared. So thank you again, Megan, Sheena, Andy, and Katie for all the work you did today. And thanks to everyone who attended as well.
Will we be able to get the presentation from Peerceptiv, the slides that you all shared? That'd be fantastic.
Yes, I will send those out after the session is over.
Excellent. Thank you. It's
Excellent.
nice to see everyone.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.